Chapter 2, Lesson 4, the percent equation. Vocabulary startup. You have used a percent proportion to find the missing part P, percent N, or whole W. You can also use a percent equation. The percent equation is part equals percent times whole. We're going to label the diagram that shows the relationship between the percent proportion and the percent equation with the terms part, whole, and percent. We're going to use each term once. So if we take the part divided by the whole, that is going to equal the percent. The part divided by whole, if we were to multiply the left side times the whole, we had to multiply the right side times whole. That leaves our left side with just the part. So that's how we get the equation that the part equals the percent times the whole. So real world link. A survey found that 16% of all 7th graders at Lincoln Middle School think that tarantulas are the scariest creatures. There are 150 7th graders at the school. How would you write a percent equation to find how many 7th graders said that tarantulas are the scariest creatures? Well, they have already changed the percent of 16% to 1600ths. So as a reminder, if you have 16%, you can also write that as a fraction of 1600ths, which is also written as 1600ths as a decimal. So there are 150 7th graders at the school. So that is our total amount. That is our whole. Well, our whole is going to be, well, the left side is part equals the percent times the whole. So if 150 is the whole, I'm going to multiply this times 150. So I'm going to take 1600ths and multiply it by 150. And that's going to give me the answer of 24. So how many 7th graders said the tarantulas are the scariest creatures? 24 students. Or, I'm sorry, 24 7th graders. Let's continue. We're going to use the percent equation. There are 3 different ways for us to use the percent equation. The first way is to find the percent. An example is 3 is what percent of 6? The equation is 3 equals n times 6. Again, we're going to use the variable n to represent our percent. The next equation is to find the part. What number is 50% of 6? So p equals 5/10 times 6. So p is our part. And the last percent equation is used to find the whole. 3 is 50% of what number? Well, we're going to find our whole, so we are solving for W this time, which is on the right side. You can use the percent equation to solve problems that involve percent. So 3 is 50% of 6. So we have our part equals the percent times the whole. Our part is 3, which equals the percent, which is 50, or 5/10, times the whole, which is 6. Note that the percent is written as a decimal. So example 1. What number is 12% of 150? Well, if I go back to my equations up here, we're going to find the part because it's saying what number is. The is our part. Do you need to find the percent, part, or whole? So this one we are finding the part. So we're going to use our equation of P equals our percent times our whole. So our part equals our percent times our whole. So we're solving for the percentage. We're solving for the part. Our percent is changed to 1200ths because that was 12% times our whole of 150. Well, 1200ths times 150 equals 18. So our part is 18. So we're going to do these problems to find out if we understand. Letter A, what is 6% of 200? All right, so letter A, what is 6% of 200? Well, we're going to find part equals percentage times our whole. We know our percentage is 6%, which is written as 600ths, times our whole of 200. Again, we are solving for the part. So the part equals, well, 600 times 200 gives me the answer of 12. So letter A, the answer is 12. Letter B, find 72% of 50. So our part equals our percent times our whole. Part equals 72%, which is 72 hundredths, times our whole of 50. So 50 times 72 hundredths is 36. So the part is 36 for letter B. All right, for letter C, what is 14% of 150? So part equals percent times our whole. The part is 14 hundredths, because 14% is written as that as a decimal, times 150. Well, then we take 150 and multiply it by 14 hundredths. So the part equals 21. Let's solve for letter D. We're going to find 50% of 70. So our part equals the percentage times the whole. So the part equals 50%, you could write that as 5/10, times 70. So our part is 35. Those problems we're solving for the part. Let's go on to the next set. 21 is what percent of 40? Do you need to find the percent, the part, or the whole? Well, it's asking what percent. So for these problems, we're going to be finding the percent. So they have the estimate of 21 divided by 40 is about 1/2 or 50%. To find the actual, we are taking our part equals our percent times our whole. If we know that 21 is our part, we're solving for the percentage and multiplying by the whole. I'm going to divide both sides by 40. That leaves me with 0 and 5 to 5. So 0 and 525 thousandths equals n. So when I multiply it by 100, I move the decimal to the right twice. That gives me the percentage of 52 and 5/10%. Now, when we estimated at the beginning, we said about 50%, which is very close to 52 and 5/10%. So let's see if we understand this. We're going to write an equation for each problem, then solve. We're going to round to the nearest tenth, so I'm going to underline that as a reminder. If it's needed, I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. Letter E says, what percent of 40 is 9? Well, part equals percent times the whole. Whoops, my apologies. That is part equals percent times the whole. 9 is my part. I don't know my percentage, and I know my whole is 40. So I'm going to divide both sides by 40. I'm going to solve 9 divided by 40, which is 0 and 225 thousandths, which is my percent. Well, in order to change that to a percentage, I had to multiply that by 100. So my percentage equals 22 and 5/10%. All right, letter F. 27 is what percent of 50? Oh, I'm sorry, of 150. So part equals percent times the whole. So 27 equals the percentage times 150. I'm going to divide both sides by 150. 27 divided by 150. 1800ths as my percent. I had to multiply that by 100, so my percentage is 18%. So far we have solved for the part, we have solved for the percentage. Let's go ahead and see what kind of part, or which portion of the equation we're going to solve for. Number 3, 13 is 26% of what number? Well, this time we're going to be solving for the whole. So if I take 13, that's my part. So let me start over. My part equals my percentage times my whole. So 13 equals 26% is 2600ths as the decimal times my whole. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2600ths. So 13 divided by 2600ths gives me the answer of 50. So 50 equals W. My whole is 50. So now let's try these next two problems to find out if we understand it. We're going to write an equation for each problem, then solve, and round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Round to the nearest tenth if necessary. Again, underlining that to remind myself. So we know that our part equals our percent times our whole. Part is 39, because it says 39 is 84% of what number? Again, we're solving for the whole. 39 is 8400ths times our whole. Now I'm going to go ahead and divide both sides by 8400ths to get my W by itself. So 39 divided by 8400ths gives me 46.42857, and there's more numbers after that. So I need to round my whole to the nearest tenth. So that means one decimal place to the right. So that's 46 4/10. So that's my answer for letter G. 46 4/10. So let's try letter H. 26% of what number is 45? Again, we're solving for the whole. So part equals the percent times the whole. Our part is 45. Our percent is 2600ths. Oh, 2600ths, not 62. 2600ths times our whole, which is unknown. So I'm going to divide both sides by 2600ths. And I'm going to solve 45 divided by 2600ths gives me 173.0769, and it continues from there. So I'm going to round to the nearest tenth. W equals 173 and 1/10. 173 and 1/10. Let's continue. Example 4. A survey found that 25% of people aged 18 to 24 gave up their home phone and only use a cell phone. If 3,264 people only use a cell phone, how many people were surveyed? Well, 3,264 people is 25% of what number of people? So this is saying that 3,264 is my part. That part is represented by 25%. So we have our part equals our percent times our whole. Well, our part is 3,264 equals our percent, which is 2500ths, times our whole. I'm going to divide both sides by 2500ths. 3,264 divided by 2500ths gives us the answer of 13,056 as our whole. So that means 13,056 people were surveyed.